Not just scorched earth, but claims of chemical attacks. The military junta in Burma, now known as Myanmar, has been accused of using chemical weapons against insurgent fighters. Similar accusations in the past have never been proven. But now Channel 4 News has testimony from alleged victims and from doctors and Burmese army defectors to lend weight to the accusation. The alleged attack was part of a renewed Burmese army offensive against rebels belonging to the Karenni tribal group. In Kaya state, but for the Karenni, most of whom have been displaced by fighting, an even greater threat is posed by plans to dam the Salween River, which will drown their farmland and displace still more people. As our Foreign Affairs correspondent Jonathan Miller reports, the Karenni consider this an act of war.
In the eastern mountains of Myanmar, alias Burma, a Karenni jungle patrol stalks an army which has stalked them for more than half a century. One of Burma's most ancient indigenous peoples, waging one of the world's longest-running insurgencies. Refugees on the run in their own land. Rebel fighters are few in number and hopelessly outgunned. A Karenni village burns under Burmese military onslaught. Rebel soldiers unable to repel the attack. The footage is 5 years old, but scorched earth tactics have been employed every year since and for decades before. Ethnic cleansing, human rights groups say. The insurgents capture some young Burmese conscripts. Terror on young faces. But terror is what they've reaped. We don't know what happened to them. The jungle patrol disarms a landmine they themselves had laid to keep the Burmese army at bay. Both sides play this deadly game. This 23-year-old rebel soldier's just had his foot blown off by a Burmese mine. He would later survive 2 amputations without anaesthetic. In recent weeks, a vicious offensive's been launched by the Burmese. It's still going on. The rebels say that during one intense artillery barrage, 2 exploding shells poured out pungent yellow vapour. Channel 4 News sent a crew to the hilltop position of Niamey to investigate.
Yes. So 2 shells landed here, one here, one just over there, just near the lock. So, and the soldiers, after the shells landed, they saw some strain of the smoke, and then they start having difficulty of breathing.
Evidence that nerve or blister agents might have been used? Well, no fatalities. The symptoms cause suspicion, but impossible really to prove. Efforts to gather samples of soil and munitions for analysis interrupted by word Burmese troops are too close for comfort.
They are near what? They are now just near the fence.
The Burmese government has denied its forces were even involved in fighting up here. Early March, and 3 weeks on, those worst affected still weren't well. They described vividly the first symptoms. These men are hardened veterans. Never before, they said, had they experienced anything like this. The next day, I suffered terribly, Po Ray says. I lost my mind. He said he was vomiting, coughing blood, he felt dizzy, and his whole body was itching. Strange diseases, Wee Ray says. Fever, diarrhea, coughing, chest pain. My throat was dry, my body ached. Pei Bu, another of the 5 worst affected, says he too experienced such symptoms. Dizziness, chest pains, nosebleeds, sore throat. This Christian doctor was one of 3 who'd examined them. For his safety, we've concealed his identity.
I can only conclude that they have been exposed to some kind of chemical or poison, something that I cannot explain. But it is clear to me that it is caused by man and not natural.
Last week, with 2 of the men still coughing blood, 2 teenaged Burmese conscripts defected to the Karenni resistance, apparently offering new evidence. The youngest, just 15, hadn't fought on the front lines, but his comrades had.
Some of our friends who fired these shells told us they have to wear special clothes and masks, and that every 4th shell contains a chemical.
This is the sign he claims was emblazoned on crates he had to load and unload.
When we were carrying these boxes, we were told by Sergeant Major Cho Nu to be careful because he said they contain chemicals and if we dropped them, we'd die.
Burma's ruling junta and the war machine it spends half the budget on is deemed guilty of so much abuse and repression that its critics are loath to frame allegations that can't be proved. Uncorroborated reports of chemical attacks have emerged in the past. The Foreign Office here says this time it still can't make a definitive judgment. In a jungled valley deep in Kaya State, 2,000 Karenni civilians huddle in a clearing, forced to flee their farms and villages, most of which have been torched. They're used to this. There are probably only around 300,000 Karenni in Burma. At least a third, maybe two-thirds, are displaced. This man says they were told they'd be killed if they didn't leave. Over the decades, there's been wave after wave of forced relocations like this. The Karenni are bemused by the sudden attention their plight has drawn since the chemical weapons allegations first surfaced. They're much more concerned by a government plan to build 3 hydroelectric dams along the Salween River. Burma would sell the power to neighbouring Thailand, but the lake would drown Karenni farmland and displace tens of thousands more people. That's why the Karenni resistance consider the plan now at an advanced stage, just another new tactic in the war against this minority. Burma's military government calls itself the State Peace and Development Council. For the Karenni, it's delivered exactly the opposite.
Jonathan Miller reporting, and in a statement to Channel 4 News, the Burmese embassy in London says it completely rejects allegations that chemical weapons were used against ethnic fighters. The embassy went on to say Myanmar signed the Chemical Weapon Convention in 1993 and neither produces nor uses chemical weapons.